Hey everybody, thanks for hopping on. Looks like we just went live. Give me just a second here. I gotta set up my little monitoring thing so I can see that everything's working. But if you are somebody joining early, hop in, ask questions, and if you can hear me and you're in the chat, just let me know in the chat that you can hear me. Looks like I'm the only one in right now. I just started, so we'll just kick things off here. So, thanks for joining everybody. I was just filming a video this morning and I thought I would go live for a second. I'm going to try to keep Mo here, but Mo is not in the mood to be held right now. He's a little feisty. He's a little feisty baby. And, oh, maybe sometimes we do him upside down and he relaxes. Anyway, oh, there we go. He's happy now. There you go. You want to say hi, Mo, to the mic? You want to say hi? Okay. All right. So anyway, I was just doing a video and I was talking a little bit about how we essentially communicate with like different levels of complexity when we build reports or do any kind of data visualization, and how that often starts with like using words, being verbal in describing the data that we have. And as we kind of progressively move through the verbal descriptions of our data, we get the ability to get a little more complex. And as we get more complex, we can sort of use that to drive what visualizations we use and all that kind of stuff. So that's the idea. I think I might just be streaming to an empty room right now. So I'm going to maybe make this primarily for folks just tuning in later, maybe, and watching the stream. But if you are out there and watching, let me know in the chat. Okay, so yeah, anyways, so the basic idea, and I think what I'm going to lead with, is this idea that you kind of have like a narrative pyramid when you are deciding what to put into a report. So that seems kind of boring, but it's like a really critical concept that when we start to communicate something in data, right, when we're trying to show something to somebody and have them understand a new concept, we have to kind of take the time to actually think about how we would communicate that if we were just writing it down. Oh, hey, we got Richard in the chat, and looks like maybe somebody from Russia or Eastern Europe or something like that. Sorry, I can't pronounce your name because I don't know how to read Cyrillic. Anyway, so essentially it's like this. How do you describe whatever you're trying to communicate in one word, right? And if you're doing a marketing report, maybe it's, hey, this is how big of a reach we had, how big of an audience we had with all of our stuff. Oh, Russia, cool. Hey, thanks for tuning in from the other side of the world. Love having folks tune in from the other side of the world. Is Cyrillic, did I get the alphabet right? Sorry if I didn't. My language knowledge is limited. Anyway, so we have folks that essentially have different levels of understanding of our data. So when we communicate with them, we have to think about how we communicate. So for somebody non-technical, if we're trying to communicate about our marketing data, the message might be, this is how many people we reached. This is how many people engaged with our content. Really simple, right? Or this is how many people clicked on our content and how many conversions we got or how many sales we made from it. Now that's straightforward and simple, but it also lacks nuance. So again, for somebody maybe high level, you're talking to a CMO, a CFO, something like that, that might be enough information for it to make sense, but they probably want to know a little bit more, right? If you say, hey, we've got, let's use this example behind me. So we've got X number of sales this month. So, if I tell this person, hey, we've got $52.1 thousand in sales this month, the first thing they might ask is, hey, that's awesome, but what was the profit we made off of those sales? Because maybe some things are more profitable than others, and that's important context. So we drop in some text. Here's our profit. Our profit this month was $9,000. Okay, great. Now that's a deeper understanding, but maybe that's still not enough. Maybe they say, well, okay, that's cool, that's helpful, but is that higher or lower than it usually is? Because without knowing that, it might be hard to say if we have like, if this is high, low, medium, whatever, right? We can't interpret it. So the kind of simple way to do that if we're in Excel is we just put a table in and we have a month on one column and sales in another and profit in another and say, well, there you go. That's how much higher or lower we are than usual. But this is hard to interpret. a bunch of numbers in a table is something that human beings just aren't very good at looking at and turning into useful insights. We're kind of having to do math in the back of our head. Hey, how big of a change is this month? Is this value higher or lower? It's like we can't quickly interpret it. So we probably want a visualization to help with that. And we might need like really what they kind of refer to as like meta information or contextual information. So we might need to ask a question like, what product category is this referring to? Because in an organization, sometimes one product category matters more than another. Or what region are we looking at? Maybe knowing what region this comes from actually is incredibly important, because we only care about what's happening in our region. So as we start to kind of go through the process of verbally describing this stuff, it sets us up to then start building reports with information that actually helps us understand better. So in this example, we've got this big geochart. Now, we're not just throwing this big geochart on there because it's cool, although it is cool and geocharts are super cool. But what we're doing is we're telling our audience, what region is this data from? The moment somebody sees this, they know it's from the United States, and they know it's from the southern United States, in this case, the Southeast. That's really important, critical contextual information for someone to understand this. And we even have added what's called a slicer here, so that they literally have a label for what they're looking at. Okay, awesome. Now we kind of know where we're looking at. Now we have to ask, what are we looking at? So we have a label that tells us which product category we're looking at here. Okay, awesome. We're kind of going through this narrative period, but now we are all set up to understand our two main KPIs, sales and profit, which make a little more sense now because we know where we're looking, we know what data we're looking at, right? That can be a little more clear. And then eventually we get into the visualization, which is just a time series plotted of sales and profit. And that's going to tell us, are we higher or lower than usual? Where do we sit in the grand scheme of things in terms of our historical performance? And that oftentimes I find is easier for people to understand when they start with the verbal descriptions, when they start by just writing it out in words so that they have the framework they need to kind of go into the deeper stuff. I kind of do this on all of my projects, right? No matter what visualization I'm using, no matter what the project is, I'm starting with two things. One, writing down, doing the narrative pyramid exercise of saying, what am I trying to communicate? What is the insight my audience is trying to get? What kind of questions will my audience have? I start with that. And then I also take the time with pen and paper to just kind of block out what I want to put on the page based off of that exercise, right? And that's like literally like if you see a dashboard like the one behind me here, that exercise is in saying like, well, I need to have a big section for sales and profit because that metric really matters. And I'm going to have a small section for each of my product categories down here because I know I want to break down product categories, but I don't need as much room for each of those. And I really want to emphasize sales history, so I need something high on the page with enough space to show it. That's the kind of the exercise of saying, here's my verbal description, here's the visual that's going to go with it. So anyway, that is all to say that when we go in Excel, not all of our work's happening in Excel, and a lot of the skills that go into building great stuff in Excel are really rooted in thinking about how we communicate and being better communicators, right? And it's not like the rules to better communication are different with data. They're very similar to what we're used to if we've ever written an essay or made a PowerPoint deck or put together PowerPoint slides, right? We're kind of doing the process of asking, hey, like, does my audience know what I'm talking about? Do I need to go deeper? Do I need more info, less info, all that kind of stuff? Anyway, I'm going to pause here because I'm just rambling, but if we got a few people watching, if anyone has comments or questions, let me know in the chat. I'll be keeping an eye on it and answering questions as we go. I've got Mo here, who's actually finally relaxing a little bit and hanging out as we stream. I've been talking a lot lately about careers in Excel or working with data, doing data visualization, even things like product management, that sort of stuff. So I'm happy to answer questions about that kind of stuff too, not just regular old Excel stuff. So let me know what y'all are doing out there, where you're tuning in from, what kind of questions you have, etc. I would love to hear from you. I try to make these as much of a kind of question answer thing as I can because I tell people I get like hundreds of questions on social media. I'm not as big on YouTube, but over on like TikTok, where I have a much bigger account, I get tons of questions all the time. I just can't answer all of them. So these live sessions are usually a nice way to kind of answer those things. I am still looking into how to do streaming here on YouTube and on TikTok at the same time. I haven't quite figured that out yet, but if anybody out there is an expert on that topic, please let me know. I'd love to hear from you. Yeah, so anyway, I mean, I'm not seeing anything in the chat or any questions. If we don't have any, maybe I'll just, kind of bop around some of these Excel templates, talk a little more, and then I'll probably sign off pretty soon unless more people tune in. I think we literally have like 4 people right now. So, yeah, Richard, I get a lot of questions like this about, can you provide an example specifically for this specific topic? And even down to equipment and consumables and stuff. I just can't do that. It's like a huge amount of work. It takes a ton of time. And unfortunately, it's just like, I get asked like for a bunch of these types of things every single time I stream. I get asked like, you should see my inbox on TikTok. It's just like filled with people like, can you do this example? Do this example? I just can't do it. But if you want to talk about inventory management just in general and talk about like equipment that has like consumables with expiration dates and stuff, I think there's a few interesting things you can do there. So particularly with consumables, in your tables, start thinking about adding columns for sort of what the depreciation is on them, right? And I'm using the term depreciation. That might not be the right the term, but let's look here. So let's imagine these are just like columns and columns of data around different pieces of inventory or equipment. If you include expiration dates just as an extra column in here for each item, so each row, if each row represents one piece of equipment, one of the useful things to do there is start actually plotting those out. When is the useful life of that equipment going to end? And when are there, if you plot this like with a bar chart or something, where do we start to see periods where lots of pieces of equipment are going to end their useful life right around the same time? Those types of visuals can be really, really useful. Inventory management in general, it would just depend on how your tables are structured, right? Like, and the questions that your audience is answering. So if we're talking about like, hey, we got to make sure that we have enough stuff available at this time for this particular, for this particular, location of our business or something. Making sure that you've segmented things properly, you have things broken down by all the right categories, and then starting to plot things like how much equipment is getting sent out. Is that changing over time? That sort of thing is really useful. Yeah, Richard, I get you. You got the dashboard built. You're learning new things to add. So, okay, let's go over to a visual example. This is actually, I think, a good use of a little time here on the stream, so we can get into some of this. Okay, so some examples we're just going to run through here. Grouped bar charts, super effective for showing proportionality between different things. In this example, each of these is a series, right? So we've got Norway, Denmark, Sweden, and then 2 bars, one representing the year for each of these, right? If you've got something where you're trying to compare like inventory that you have versus inventory you need, or inventory you have versus what your estimated forecast was for that inventory, this could be a really interesting way to show it. And you can get creative with these by doing things like series overlap and stuff. This isn't going to work because my series are in the wrong order, but you can kind of get creative with how you present these. If you've got inventory that's ranked, so if you're like talking about, if you're wanting to look at how quickly things are increasing or decreasing, or if things are getting ranked higher than other things, right, in your whole inventory system, a slope chart can be a great way to do it because it presents growth rates really well, and you can easily see when, for example, in this case, Denmark has surpassed Norway over this period, right? So it's just a nice way of seeing, hey, what's ranked highest and how's it changing? Oh, hold on. Sorry, guys. My cat's kind of freaking out for some reason. You okay, Gummy? Hold on, guys. I got to grab the other cat. Give me 1 second. I literally we got 2 seconds. Hey, Gummy. You okay? There you go. Okay. All right. That's the life of owning cats. All right. So, let's get into a few other options here. You may be able to use a bubble chart. So this would be interesting to use if, for example, you have a location you have an inventory number for that location, but then maybe you also have like another way you're measuring the degree or size of it. Bubbles can be determined by a location, so you can see how something goes over time or whatever. You could have like a x-axis that's time, but they can also then show a secondary metric based on their size, the size of the bubble. So if you've got inventory, that could be a cool way to show inventory value, inventory depreciation, that kind of stuff. How do you represent month trends? You know, month trends, bar charts, line charts are typically what you're going to use. Let me show an example here somewhere. There we go. This is typically what we'd be looking at for that. But, you know, there's other options too. It just depends on what data you're trying to show in terms of monthly trends. If you're trying to show if something's going up or down over a month, that might be a little different. And hey, I see Barbara in the chat. Hey, Barbara, thanks for tuning in. It sounds like you've been developing dashboards for your training programs and how they correlate to sales results. A lot of data to include, and this has been so well received by the ELT. I love hearing stuff like that. It's awesome hearing that this stuff's been helpful and made a difference in some way. And dashboards are, in my opinion, just a great way to get people kind of engaged with data that might not otherwise be engaged with your data. Richard, if you have other questions too, just post them, tune in, comment. I'm getting all the social media terms mixed up. I'm a little older than I look and still kind of catching up on how a lot of this stuff works. So let me know. And yeah, and if anybody else has any other questions, feel free to tune in. I think we only have like 3 people in the stream right now, so I think I'm probably going to pop off here pretty soon. If anyone has last minute questions, maybe toss them in the chat now. And, you know, maybe I'll tune in, maybe I'll do another stream sometime soon. I'm still figuring out when to stream, how to stream, what to talk about on the streams, how to like label the streams so they're in the right category and people see them. So they'll get better with time. And I'm going to start scheduling these, I think. I'm still figuring out how that all works, but I'd like to kind of schedule them across TikTok and YouTube and all that. And that's just a whole process. A lot of technical stuff here. Cool. Richard, yeah, super happy to help. And thank you for the question. Sorry for my kind of standoffishness with like the initial questions about like, can you show an example of a specific thing? It's just I'm trying to find ways to like give examples that aren't limited to specific business categories. So like, you know, this example behind me is kind of like e-commerce, but like I'm trying to find ways of being able to give an example like this and have it still be useful whether or not somebody's doing e-commerce, if you know what I mean. And that's been tricky, but I've found that it mostly works. So yeah, anyway. All right, I don't see any follow-up comments. Like I said, folks, if you have any last-minute comments, questions, drop them in the chat now, and I'll try to answer them. But I think I'm going to tune off soon because it's been a pretty slow stream today. I think we've got about 4 people. But yeah, if you're out there, you want to ask me anything, now's the chance. Otherwise, everybody have a really, really good day. Hope you all enjoy yourselves and you have an awesome week. I know it's Monday. Everybody's just kind of getting started here. So I hope you all kind of have a good start to the week and good week altogether. Let's see here. All right. Yeah, I don't see any other comments or questions coming in. Now, let me just cruise over. Sorry, folks. I know there's a little delay on the stream too, so I'm just checking to see here. Yep. All right. Cool. All right. Well, I think that's it for now. Everybody have a good one. I will talk to you all soon. And thank you so much for tuning in. Bye.